He lives
Okay, we'll call the meeting of Door County Board of Supervisors, December 16th, 2014. Rise for the pledge.
He's gonna run the farm.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready?
First guy.
Roll call.
Was me.
Go to your voter board.
Then Claude.
Raquel's my thing.
Tune in, turn on.
We have 19 present, 2 excused.
No, two are
Motion
absent.
to present the agenda.
So move.
Mark Miller, seconded by Don City. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has passed. Under correspondence, in your packet, we have the unassigned fund balance, and I also have a letter here from the state DOT that I'll turn over to the Highway Committee, basically saying that they've made a decision, they're gonna put a roundabout at Egg Harbor Road and Michigan Street. So I'll turn it over to John. I'll give it to you after the meeting. You can bring it to the Highway Committee. It's a 2-page letter, so explain what they plan on doing. Public comment? Anybody from the public want to make a comment? There being nobody, administrative monthly report.
I have none. Yay. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year too, right away, huh?
That's
Okay.
true.
Okay. Minutes for the October 28th regular meeting and November 12th budget annual meeting. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve both of them, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second by Kathy Schultz, motion by Ken. Any additions, subtraction? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has passed. We're going to recess in a couple of minutes for a public hearing, but we're going to call the planning staff to the podium to explain what the public hearing is about. And then we'll recess for the public hearing, and then after the public hearing, we'll go back to our regular business. Go ahead, Mariah, you want to?
I was going to say Mariah Good, Planning Department Director.
And I'm actually going to turn it over to Becky, our planner, to talk. I told her less than 5 minutes about the process and why we're here and what we're doing. And then we can open it up if there's any comments from the public, or if you have any questions, I guess you can ask those first before the public asks theirs.
Hello, I'm Becky Kerwin with the Door County Planning Department. Today, the Door County Board of Supervisors is discussing and voting on the Door County Comprehensive and Farmland Preservation Plan 2035. This is an updated and combined plan to replace the currently separate comprehensive and farmland preservation plans. Door County, with both zoning and subdivision ordinances, is required by state statute to have a comprehensive plan in order to guide development in Door County. And the current comprehensive plan was adopted in December of 2009 by the Door County Board of Supervisors, and this plan took effect January 1 of 2010. Door County is also required to have, or by state statute, to have a farmland preservation plan in place in order to take advantage of state agricultural programs, such as the exclusive agriculture district in the town of Claybanks. The county's current farmland preservation plan was adopted in the 1980s. It's a bit outdated now. Soon after the county adopted its comprehensive plan in 2009, the state enacted new farmland preservation planning legislation. You may know this as the Working Lands Initiative. And this initiative requires more specific agricultural information and associated maps than what is currently provided in either the current farmland preservation plan or the comprehensive plan. Per the Working Lands Initiative, Door County is required to adopt a new farmland preservation plan by the end of this year, the end of this month. The current comprehensive plan is not required to be updated until 2019. However, the Resource Planning Committee did decide to update the comprehensive plan sooner and to combine both plans into one for 2 main reasons. One reason is there are many overlapping requirements between the legislation for the two types of plans, including identical adoption processes and requirements. And also because updating the comprehensive plan now aligns future updates of the plan with U.S. Census Bureau decadal data releases. And this will make the plan more current and relevant when we update it in the future. So you have before you today a combined comprehensive and farmland preservation plan that is divided into 2 volumes. Volume 1, Vision and Goals, contains the issues, opportunities, vision statements, goals and action items, future land use maps, and now new farmland preservation maps are included. Volume 2 is a resource report, and this provides all the demographic, inventory, and other data and accompanying maps. And it also has a new chapter now dedicated to agricultural preservation in the county per the farmland preservation planning requirements. All statutory requirements for adopting this plan have been met, including the Planning Department held an open house meeting on April 22nd of this year, for which we advertised to the public. The RPC also did hold a first public hearing regarding this plan on October 16th of this year, and they voted unanimously to recommend adoption of the plan to the county board. As the plan was going to be certified by the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, which you also know as DATCP. And the farmland preservation plan portion of the plan before you today was conditionally certified by DATCP on October 22nd of 2014. And the conditional certification is conditional based on your approval today and adoption of this plan, ordinance, and plan. And so the last step of this process is to hold this public hearing, which we properly noticed and is being held in compliance with the state statutes. And those are my only comments. And what we have hanging on the map, or on the wall here, we have a current land use map to the left, future land use map in the middle, and then a new map, new addition to the plan is the farmland preservation map. Does anybody have any questions?
John?
Does the adoption of this plan limit the landowner to make some decisions on the usage of his land?
The adoption of this plan and the future land use maps is a guide for any future rezonings. It's not a prediction, it's not a zoning map. It is only a guide that the RPC will use to, when they consider any rezoning requests, they use the future land use maps as a guide as to whether that zoning request, rezoning, should be granted or not granted. The text is also a guide as well because there are many policies in there, goals and action items that can also be considered in addition to the maps.
Okay. Joel?
So is it fair to say then that in the terms used in the past, that it's a living, breathing document that has the ability to be changed and modified?
It may be amended, yes. And we do have a process set up for amending the plan. And we are required to update this plan at least once every 10 years.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Sorry, Dan, I have one thing that I'd like to add that
Go ahead.
I forgot to talk about. The links that you got to the plan, everything in there was correct. The only change is, presuming that you're going to adopt the plan this morning, you'll need to make a notation that you're adopting the plan as presented, with the exception that we did make a correction to the town of Claybank's farmland preservation map based on input that we got from Myron Johnson last week. We had made a mistake in the southeast corner of Claybanks.
We're going to cover that under the ordinance when we pass the ordinance.
Okay, perfect.
So what I'll do is I'll open the public hearing on the adopting Door County Comprehensive Farmland Preservation Plan of Plan 2035. There's a procedure we'll use. I won't read it off until I find out if anybody's going to testify. Does anybody want to testify in this? The public hearing is now open. This is basically the way it went last time, by the way. Is there anybody that wants to testify on the farmland preservation plan? Going once? Going twice? We'll declare the hearing completed and reconvene into regular county board. So that's exactly the way it went 10 years ago, by the way. So going on to county board then, The first item on resolution is a memorandum on Robert Delort. Roy, you want to read that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Make a
Chair.
motion, and I'll second. Okay.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2014-92.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Seconded by John Ninus. Okay, go ahead and read it.
In memoriam of Robert Delort to the Door County Board of Supervisors. Whereas Robert J. Delort passed away on November 28, 2014, and whereas Supervisor Delort was duly elected to the Door County Board of Supervisors in April 1976 and was re-elected in April 1978 and 1980, serving through 1981 for a total of 6 years, and whereas Supervisor Delort represented Supervisory District 3, including the town of Brussels and part of Forestville, and whereas Supervisor Delort served on several committees, including Emergency Medical Services, Emergency Government, Highway Committee, and Social Services Committee, and whereas Supervisor Delort served as chairperson of the Solid Waste Management Board, whereas Robert Delort also served as Highway Commissioner for Door County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors assembled in regular session the 16th day of December, 2014, extend our sincere sympathy to Robert Delort's family with this acknowledgement of his dedication to the citizens of the County of Door.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed. Next item is the hangar commercial agreement. Biz, would you like to make a motion and explain it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2014-93 is a non-commercial hangar site lease agreement between John Estee and Building Number 51 and Paul Fiat, Building Number 68. And there's supporting language on the details of the agreement. And I'll make a motion to adopt this resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joel Gunnison. Go ahead, Biz.
If you look on page 13, and it outlines the details of the agreement, and there's a typo on there on number 1 in the second line. I'll read those two sentences. The term of the agreement shall be for a period of 10 years, commencing on January 1st, 2015, and terminating on December 31st. And it says 2014, and it should be 2024. I called Keith on it, and I think he spoke to Jill, he spoke to, maybe Grant, and said that in-house they're going to correct this language, but I just want to note that is a typo error. It should be a 2 instead of that 1, 2024. On the other one, the other building, it's correct. It goes from January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2024.
Okay. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed. Next item is the committee appointments. Make a motion to approve. Motion by Don City, seconded by Mark Miller. I guess everybody has a list of what they are. Does anybody want me to read them, or anybody have any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Scrutiny.
That is passed. Okay, the donor services. Grant, you want to explain this one? We'll take a motion and put it on the floor first. On the resolution for the donor services, someone would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve resolution number 2014-95.
Okay, is there a second by Ben Meyer? Go ahead, Grant, explain it.
Briefly, and we've done this before with this particular company, the statutes allow a county medical examiner to enter into a written general referral agreement with one or more tissue banks. Our existing agreement with RTI Donor Services, Inc. expires at year's end. It was initially adopted by Resolution 2007-14 back in February of 2007 and was later amended in 2012. And what the present agreement or amendment to the agreement seeks to do is extend the existing agreement through December 31st, 2007.
Does anybody have any questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has passed. Next item is the appointment and compensation of interim Door County Finance Director. As we all know, Shirley Kalish is retired as of January 16th, I believe. And this is a motion to, or a resolution to have a finance director interim until we hire a new person. Someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Who is that? Joel, second by Ben. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this? It sets the wages and a term of how long this person will, Marco Janiak will take over until the new director is hired, and this is his compensation for that. And then upon hiring the new finance director, he'll revert back to his present job. Anybody got any questions? Yeah.
I just had a question, maybe that, and maybe this is HR or you or whatever, but why would Mark be that director?
Mark has indicated to me he would not like to be the director.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yes, he was asked, and
he does not want to be, okay.
yes,
All right.
he wants to remain in the position that he is now.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed. Next item is employee residency requirement. A motion to get it on the floor, and then we'll have Grant explain it. Someone make that motion? Biz Burley, seconded by Roy. Grant, do you want to explain it?
Yes, again, as briefly as I can. About a year ago, the county adopted an employee residence requirement. If you remember, going back to Act 10 and the legislation that arose along with Act 10, the state limited the ability of local units of government to impose residency requirements on their employees. But they did allow counties to impose residency requirements on law enforcement, fire, or emergency personnel. And the county opted to do that about a year ago. About a few weeks ago, Kelly Hendy and Dan Williams approached me and indicated that the residency requirement was creating some difficulty with respect to recruitment. We got our heads together and agreed to proceed with an amendment to the resolution and provide, and it's highlighted in orange on the resolution that's before, excuse me, in yellow on the resolution that's on your Zoom or before you, that the residency requirement may be waived by the sheriff or emergency services director with the concurrence of the human resources director. And I believe Dan Williams is here to answer any questions about how this might impact the ability of the service to recruit potential employees. But it seemed like a good common sense means to address the issues that have arisen in the past 12 months since we've passed the initial resolution back in 2013.
Has anybody got any questions? If, go ahead, Don.
I'm just wondering why the concurrence will not include the Door County Board Chairman.
They never asked.
I know. I guess that goes, to the distinction between policy and day-to-day decision-making. The policy is reflected in the resolution. You're allowing the department head, one of whom happens to be an elected official, to make a decision whether or not to waive the residency requirement, and the concurrence with the human resources directors to make sure that there's consistency between the two departments that are subject to the residency requirement. And quite honestly, I think requiring the approval of the Door County chairperson is something that could be inserted into the resolution. It just seems to me that it goes past that divide of policymaking and day-to-day decision-making, and that's why it's not included there. And it's true, we didn't ask.
Well, I think that we should have as many checks and balances as possible, and that's the reason for the question.
Okay. Yeah, and the one check and balance we put in there is the human services, or human resources director, excuse me.
I have no problem with the way it is right now. I mean, without, if you so choose, whatever, but the human services person is the balance against the department head. Go ahead. Resource.
Repeating my.
Yeah. Human resource. We should change those names on the committees. They're too similar. Go ahead, Leo.
Why don't we have an explanation from Dan Williams?
Yeah. Dan, why don't you come forward and explain why you think this is an important part of it?
Good morning. In an effort to try to make sure that we have the ability to hire the most qualified people, some of which may not live here and for a variety of reasons may not be able to move, they might have kids in high school, things like that, where it's difficult to move, or spouse has a job in Green Bay. That's been a concern. We have several people who are currently on our staff as well that spouses work in other locations, and that creates, as we all know, we'd like to have jobs for everybody in Door County, but the fact is that even as far little as ways as Green Bay is, there is much more opportunity there. So for us to not have to rely on only people who are living here or have to move here, it just seemed like a good possibility to do that. You know, my issue is if they have a schedule, they know when they need to be to work, if they come to work, and they're on time, to me it doesn't matter where they live. In the past, where we relied heavily on the off-duty people to respond to backup calls, we no longer have that situation because nobody really lives in the communities that they're working now. With the way that the resolution read originally, we have people who live in Sturgeon Bay who would be outside of the resolution by working in Sister Bay. Now, I realize those people were grandfathered in, but it just kind of sets up a situation of, in our own resolution, we have violations of potentially with the way it's written.
Susan?
Maybe I'm missing something here, but why wouldn't we just rescind this residency requirement, period? What's the advantage of having it if we're going to waive it?
That was discussed.
Yeah.
And I think that to keep the integrity of the resolution in place, to have this as a waiver opportunity was kind of the compromise.
Okay. John?
Is this being proposed for an individual basis? If you had an employee that was a possible candidate and lived, this isn't a blanket policy that's
No,
going out.
this would be case by case. If we have that ideal candidate, that this is the one obstacle that doesn't allow them to be employed by us, that we would evaluate all of the reasons and rationale why, and then make a decision based on that. So it wouldn't be a blanket. At least I don't believe that was the intent.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, we'll go to the voter board on this one. We got to keep you guys in tune here, and gals.
Hey, it's moved. It's mine that doesn't work now.
That has passed on a vote of 19 yes and 2 absent. Next item is the Emergency Services Central Station.
I think you got my battery.
Resolution. Joel, where'd he go? You want to make a motion to approve this? And
Sure. Make a motion to approve Resolution 2014-98 as submitted by the Property Committee.
And I'll second that.
I thought it was emergency service, yeah, okay. I should have said Ben. Ben, you want to explain it?
Sure. Well, either way.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Joel, we could take turns if you'd like. But basically, the resolution you have before you is very well written, and it's very straightforward. Basically, we've put aside $1 million to meet the needs of EMS here in our Sturgeon Bay Central location. The project outline is in 4 phases. Please note, interim reports will be presented to the county board at the end of each phase. And also note that resolutions to proceed are at the end of phase 2 and phase 3. So you'll get several chances to say whether or not, as a county board, you'd like to see this project proceed. That being said, are there any questions? And obviously, Dan Williams is here to answer any specifics. And Joel, if you have anything to add, feel free.
I think one other part to the puzzle is later on in the meeting, we're going to ask and I think both your committees agreed to it, an ad hoc committee to study some of this, to bring this information back to your 2 committees. You know, we'll discuss that later on, but that's part of the puzzle too. We're trying to move this along as quickly as possible. Dan, you want to say anything on this, or? I knew you shouldn't have gone way back there.
Good morning again. Yeah, the resolution was a step that we had missed in the process of any time a building project comes before any group of the county. One of the steps has to be full county board approval to start that building project process. So the purpose of the resolution is to allocate, I believe it's $150,000 in there to start that process, to get preliminary drawings, estimates, things like that. Because the resolution allows us to actually spend some money, some of the county money, to go ahead and start with that project. It doesn't make any type of a commitment to a building, location, or anything. It's just that we get that process started, and we had missed that step as part of the protocol. So that's what this is all about, is to allow for monies to be drawn from the $1 million that's been set aside for the project.
Does anybody have any questions? Ken?
Have we lost our central station? Is that why we're building a new one, or what is the reason, in 25 words or less? I don't want to get into it.
25 words or less, the station is now too small.
Okay. And thank you for being concise on that. That's exactly the type of answer I wanted. When we borrowed, and I wasn't in on that, when you borrowed $30 million for the Justice Center, Highway Shop, and Ambulance Center up north, at the time, the comment was made many times, once we're done with this, on remodeling of this building, once we're done with this, we're going to have all the needs met for this county for the next 30 years. Again.
I'm sure that comment was made, but, you know.
Yeah, and it was made by somebody sitting up in the head chair there.
I don't think so.
Yes. I'd like to know what has changed. Not that I'm against it, but that's what we were told over and over again, and you know what we went through to get that accepted. What has changed that now we're looking at more building? I mean, that has to be brought out. I'm just asking the question.
Well, I can say one thing that's changed is the ambulances don't fit through the door very good right now. That's a fact, right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, the garage that we have is no longer adequate for the size vehicles that are now being produced by the manufacturers. We have no room to really wash them inside unless we take other vehicles out. We can't even remove the cot to clean it until we take the vehicle outside. So the building has grown too small. It's 25 years old. It was never intended to be what it is today, really. And now we're adding an additional crew to that location. So we have needs in sleeping quarters, and our day room needs to be a little bit better or larger, so that not everybody's sitting on everybody's lap virtually. So the building has changed as the needs have changed for the service.
I maybe did make some comment like that, but I don't think I put 30 years on it. I might have put 10 to 15. And guess how long ago that was?
12 years.
14 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. So
But I do remember, and this stuff needs to be said because I'm still nervous about what happened 12 years ago. I don't want that happening again, people getting upset. So this is a little different situation. We're talking about a medical situation, but, you know,
yeah.
I don't want to go through it again.
Okay. Leo?
Mr. Chairman, I don't recall what happened in 2001. One of the concerns that we do have with the physical building that we do have has been brought to our attention previously. We need to do a roof, we need to do windows. It's very poorly insulated. It's not really been large enough for their operation that exists currently. And I think down the line, we do have to go with the wishes of not only the emergency medical services, but also that of the lessor. It's our information that the hospital, Ministry, Door County right now, started off with a 40-year lease. We're down to 15, Dan, is?
10. Oh, 15, you're right, 15.
We're down to 15 years remaining. The indication is that they would like to change their main entrance to be off of 18th rather than where it currently exists. So it's with that combination of effort that we want to be proactive in what we do. The offer is in exchange of property in which they own that they would allow us to use. It's not a purchase of any sort, but they are again willing to come up with a long-term lease. I don't believe it's going to be for $1 a year anymore, but maybe $10 a year. And I think it's something that we need to look at. And we always talk about let's cooperate with the community, with the others in our community, and this would give us a really good start. So in total, it's a win-win for everyone. And mindful, this is only a step. If the clog gets in the system down the line and it's going to stop after phase 1 or 2, so be it. At least we gave it a good look.
Your concerns are going to be addressed hopefully through the ad hoc committee and also the two committees, property committee and EMS. And just so people aren't confused, the ambulance garage in Sturgeon Bay right now is 25 years old, isn't it? Over 25 years old. So I mean, it wasn't included in the 10 years ago. That was 25 years ago it was put out there. So times change. Any other questions? Don City.
Yes, I do recall what happened 15 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
And if, I don't know how many people have, supervisors have toured the emergency building here in Sturgeon Bay, but I did tour it, and I totally agree with our director that we definitely need to do something out there. And I think the project is well worthwhile.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead, John Ninus.
I'd like to make a motion that in line 9, we remove all the wording after the word tax.
Say that again.
Okay.
In other words, you want to remove from it that we don't borrow any money?
Borrowing and debt are words I have problems with.
Don't you think we should leave that option
That's
open?
my motion.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion? I would think you'd want to leave all options open. Go ahead.
I think if you did take that out, it still wouldn't preclude us to later on go back and agree as a board to borrow the money. But at this point, I can see taking it out.
Okay. Anybody else? Kathy?
How about getting Grant's opinion on that statement?
On what statement?
You want to take this off?
Yeah. The language that is proposed to be removed, again, just keeps the options open. If you go down to Phase 2, lines 29 and 30, or actually 28, 29, and 30, project funding is to be resolved by way of an interim report to the county board, and then a resolution to the county board that would need to be adopted to approve project funding and authorization to proceed. I think in any event, the options are open. The only potential concern I have with removal of the language is, does that eliminate the ability in the interim report to county board to investigate and outline some form of borrowing as a means of project funding by staff?
That's what my question was.
Okay.
That was limiting us.
Any other, John?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. My main concern here is, I don't want to see an open checkbook, because they don't come under the revenue cap. That's my concern here.
Okay. By
Hold it, I think.
By removing that from correct me if I'm wrong, but by removing what you want to remove, you're forcing it to go under the, you're doing just the opposite of what you think you're doing. You would force them to do it over the levy cap and borrow to do it. You'd almost force it to be that way, done that way, instead of instead of spreading it over 5 years or 10 years, you're forcing them to borrow, tax them all in 1 year. That's what, by your thinking.
Grant, is that what I'm doing?
Well, what we're talking about are possibilities and options. And again, what lines 8 and 9 leave open is the means by financing, and that last sentence is phrased in a way that the project may be funded either through general revenue, which are property taxes, or some form of borrowing. And of those options, or at least the decision on those options, is deferred to the end of Phase 2, and ultimately will come down to the county board adopting a resolution either approving the means of funding and approving the project to proceed or not. Again, the only concern I have with the proposed removal is whether it's eliminating the ability of staff to go out and explore whether some form of borrowing or debt is an appropriate means to finance the project, and offering that option to the county board when it ultimately examines that at the end of Phase 2 and makes a decision on how to fund the project.
Don?
I don't want to repeat myself, but grant, could we get a grant?
I honestly haven't looked into it. I guess it's not an impossibility, but I'm not aware, and nor have I looked for any grants for constructions of ambulance stations. So that's always a possibility. I'm sure something staff will consider, but we haven't looked into that yet.
Susan?
I sympathize with John's feeling about borrowing, but I really think we should, times change, circumstances change, we should be able to look for whatever information we possibly can so that we can make an informed decision. And since the control of whether we borrow is built into this later on, I just as soon see that stay.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, we'll go to the voter board, and this will be a vote on the amendment to the resolution to eliminate basically the words borrowing from line 9, I think it was.
Taxes.
Pardon?
Tax, I believe.
To leave it only tax.
Yes.
Right.
Everybody understand that?
No.
You don't? Okay, this is an amendment to the resolution to eliminate line, what is it? 8 and 9, well,
9.
on line 9 and or some form of borrowing debt, to eliminate that sentence. That's what, correct, John?
I'm trying to eliminate the open checkbook.
Okay,
So if you vote yes, you're agreeing with John's motion?
yes.
If you vote.
And that's amendment to the resolution.
So we all want to vote no, is that what you're saying?
Are you ready?
Correct.
Yeah.
So go to your voter board and vote yes or no.
You're good.
Holy moly.
Come on, Holly, that's that red button.
I'm with you, baby.
Mr. Cook?
Well, no, mine is not taken.
That has failed on a vote of 3 yes, 16 no.
Holy mackerel.
So now we'll go,
No,
anybody got any more
pretty
questions
well.
on the resolution? We'll go to the resolution, approve the resolution, as soon as she gets set here.
Sorry, John. Even the best tuna doesn't get away.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, one more chance, anybody got any questions? If not, go to the voter board and vote yes or no on this resolution. That has passed on a vote of 19 yes with 2 absent. Next item is a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds for non-budget for the temporary office space for the Aging and Resource Center. Who would like to make the motion to approve that, and then we'll have the discussion?
Mr.
Mark?
Chairman, I'll make that motion, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mark, do you want to explain it, or Leo?
Well, Joe's here, so why don't we let Joe talk? It's pretty straightforward, but you can hit it real quick and concise, as Mr. Fisher prefers.
Good morning, everybody. We are looking to add 2 part-time staff to the ADRC in January of next year. We also will likely need some additional staff to help with the expansion. We currently are maxed out in the space that we have at the senior center, and this request is asking for funds for us to be able to put a temporary office space at the senior center until we come up with a more permanent option.
Has anybody got any questions? Go ahead, Dick.
I don't think the resolution says that it would be putting a temporary spot where it is. I don't believe.
I think it says 2 years.
That's correct. It doesn't say at that.
It doesn't say at that spot.
Correct.
Okay. Or what kind of building?
So at this point, what we have done, Wayne has done some research in terms of a trailer that might go on that site. And if we get approval, the next step from my perspective would be to do an RFP to see what kind of cost we would get for a trailer at that site.
Susan?
I might suggest that you explain more about the workers that would be in this
Okay.
space, what the need is and why right now.
I was trying to be brief, and I can, let me give you some backdrop on it quick then, just so this makes more sense. In 2013, we started a new program, the Aging and Disability Resource Center. At that time, we brought in 5 staff. All of those staff were funded by state and federal dollars to roll this program out. They continue to be funded by those dollars. We are adding some additional staff time, 2 part-time workers in 2015, because we have additional need for services. As our population ages, the ADRC will continue to be busier and busier. So we are looking at bringing in 2 part-time, half-time staff, and we've also added some support staff hours in 2015, again, through that state and federal funding. With the transition to family care, which at the moment we are tentatively scheduled to transition to family care in August of 2015, We have also taken a look at a significant workload increase. So right now I have 2 what are called information and assistant specialists at the ADRC. Those 2 people have trouble at the moment keeping up with the volume of work that's coming in the door. In 2015, in September, we had over 308 contacts total, which is about 55 more than we had the year before. The work keeps coming in. As we transition to family care, and what that means, again, without being too long-winded, we are transitioning all people that we currently serve in waivers. That's 187 clients. Waivers is a federal program we've talked about before. We are transitioning those folks into family care. They all have to have what's called enrollment counseling. That enrollment counseling, on average, is 2.5-hour visits, and this is information that we've received from the state in terms of planning. We're looking at about 160 hours of additional work needed for a 6-month period before we go to family care. So we are looking for potentially additional staff to help with that as well. So again, space needs. We, as most of you know, maybe not all of you because you weren't on the board at that time, did some renovations in this building. And even with those renovations here, we don't have room for the current ADRC staff to fit. But we also moved them in August to try and provide better service to those senior citizens who are both accessing the ADRC and the senior center. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's at least some backdrop to where we're at.
Joel?
I will ask the question that has been tossed around here in the last couple of days. I think it has to happen, but apparently there has been conversation about other ideas, and nowhere in this resolution does it say that it's going to be trailers rented and put on site. I know that right next door is the old highway shop with the far south end of it has space in there. I would like to at least ask that for $75,000 what it would cost to renovate that and those existing offices that are there as an idea. That way it's long-term to the county as potential future space needs for something, whether big or small. It would now be the county's invested in that, not something that you're writing a check 2 years down the road, trailer they yank off the property. So I think it should be at least looked at and presented as maybe an option or not, and not just this, portable trailer thing. So.
And that's purposely why I drafted the resolution as broadly as I did. The only option I think that was discussed at the property committee meeting was the trailer parked in proximity to the existing senior resource center. But what this resolution does is recognize the need for temporary office space, but allow staff to go out and explore all the options, because I think we all thought, at least at first blush, that the cost for the trailer at the site was a bit exorbitant, given the fact you weren't going to get anything for it at the end of the day. You're just going to walk away. So.
Yeah, it's been talked about, but nobody said anything, so I'll bring it up here today.
Very good. The RFP is going to come back to the property committee?
At this point, based on the way the resolution was written, the RFP, and again, we haven't put it out there yet, but it would come back to myself and Wayne Spritka, Buildings Director, to take a look at.
Okay. Ben, I think you put something on your agenda to talk about approving or disapproving the options.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, how about the voter board? Vote this on your voter board, yes or no?
It's an excellent idea. It wasn't for me. Nobody was.
Does it go? I want to go home.
It's going to be here, so just don't have it ready. It's a lot.
John?
What do we do about this? Yeah, to be put on.
Yeah.
That is passed on a vote of 19 yes, 2 absent.
Good deal.
Next item is the Door County Comprehensive Farmland Preservation Plan. Would someone like to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a
ordinance?
motion, we adopt it, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Don City. We heard the presentation, we had the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions on it? If not, we'll go ahead. You're coming for this?
I just want to have the motion clarify that the map that was posted originally has been superseded by a map with a correction in the town of Claybanks.
Everybody understand that?
Nope.
Take a vote, please.
Do I need to explain that further?
Pardon?
Do I need to explain that further?
Doesn't seem to be. Nobody has any questions. We have to take a roll call vote on this, so we'll go to the voter board to vote yes or no on it. No questions, go to the voter board. Hold on.
Typing.
Hold on.
Now you.
Creates a lot of time.
Go ahead to the voter board and vote yes or no. That has passed by a vote of 19 yes and 2 absent. Next item is a report on the amendment to the zoning map of Nassau-Waupee. Ken, would you like to make a motion to bring the report?
I'll make a motion to accept the report on the zoning map amendment for Nassau-Waupee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by David Anigo. Does anybody have any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That has passed. Now, would you like to make a motion to pass the ordinance on the zoning map? And
Yes, I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second by David Anigo? Is there any questions? If not, we can go to voter board on this one. I think we got it all. Ready? Go to the voter board and vote yes or no. Don City. That is passed and voted at 19 yes, 2 absent.
That signal out of Bailey's Harbor.
Must be Christmas.
Wants to get out of here.
Okay, stop sign on County Y.
Stop.
Why not?
John Ninus, would you like to make a motion? And
So move.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ken Fisher. Do you want to explain it, or?
Sure, I'll try. This has been requested by the town and union and the residents out there, and this situation was created with the new highway when we had a road that was dead-ended. And they're recommending just a no-stop to the right-hand turn, because coming from the left is a dead end, there is no traffic, and they believe we would have a better traffic flow if we just had a no-stop with the right turn. We have this, other places in the county, they seem to work, but I guess statutory, we had to bring it here. It's been approved by the Highway Safety Committee, it's been approved by the Highway Committee, so that's why we're bringing it here for the final approval.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? If not, all in favor? Roll call. Roll call. We got to roll call this ordinance. Okay. Go to the voter board again. That is passed on a vote of 19 yes, 2 absent. Next item is election of the Civil Service Commissioner. Kelly? Where is she? Is she here? Do you have a name in that, and who, recommendation, or?
This would be for Bill Larson. He served one term, and he has agreed to serve another term.
Okay. Do we just have to have a nomination and a second and approve it, or do we have to have a?
Call for nominations. If there's no one, there's only one person nominated, then you can move for a.
Okay, I'll call for nominations for to replace the Bill Larson, and Bill Larson would like to be that person to replace himself, I guess. Someone like to nominate him?
I'll nominate Bill Larson for civil service.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Dick.
I'll make a motion to close the nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Bill Larson.
Okay, is there a second to that? second by John Cook. We have to have a roll call on that, or? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on new business, if anybody has any ideas, Roy has already done it on a WCA conference. There's a form you can fill out. I think Jill's got one in her office. Any suggestions on how they could improve the conference usually in September? Please fill out a form. Roy, you did one already, it's passed on. Anybody? Go ahead, Don City.
What's the date?
September 20th to the 22nd.
Wow. Got that?
I checked this morning. I checked this morning.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I'll be there.
Got your reservation?
You got a route planned out
You
there?
plan on attending or what?
I've just been checking the local maps.
Next item on the agenda is the creation of an ad hoc EMS study committee. This is a recommendation that comes, I think, from both the EMS committee and the property committee. And in particular, Dan Williams feels that we need an ad hoc committee to solve some of the issues for EMS to go along with the resolution that we just passed. And within the last day or two, Dan put some ideas together what the committee would do. Normally, we would have a list of the number of people who were going to be on it. We talked briefly and agreed that maybe around 7 would be it. And normally, we'd have a resolution, but we want to move this along. So we'd like to have authority to have Dan Williams and myself put together the people on this committee. And some of the things that the committee would like to address, I'll read them off, what Dan has said would be addressed by this committee. And we'd like to get this done in the next, say, how long, Dan? 2 months? Yes. About 2 months. So it dovetails in with what we passed on the resolution. I'll read just some of his ideas. Determine the location of the central ambulance station. Establish the pros and cons of the following. Evaluate the current commitments and locations. Determine future needs in Sturgeon Bay area to plan for the next 15 to 20 years. Review the call volume and location of the calls. Determine the response time parameters as it relates to mileage circles for coverage. Evaluate the differences in the 4-station response time circles versus current locations. Review other existing locations in Sturgeon Bay that could be considered. 2, analyze the past several year call volume, determine the potential growth and the impact of that growth on future needs. 3, determine the impact to the county regarding the need to provide inter-facility transports. That's currently being done by Paratrain, and he might be closing in on retirement there, so that has to be looked into. Determine the cost of the 4-station EMS system versus modifications to the current system with consideration of commitments previously made. Determine the cost of land acquisition. Determine the cost of well drilling septic systems for out-of-city locations, and determine staffing locations. This is not going to be the entire list. There might be more items added to it. But what we're asking is the motion to approve the creation of an ad hoc building committee with myself and Dan Williams putting the people on it, and then proceed forward with it post haste, I guess would be the word. Go ahead.
Could I ask a question before you get the motion, Mr. Chairman? I was at their meeting last Thursday, and when they talked about it, I was under the understanding they were talking about an ad hoc building committee. Why would we create a secondary EMS committee? The committee members could do this all themselves within the framework of the committee itself. Why have a secondary committee for this?
I guess
it would be like appointing a second committee to investigate the roads when you've already got a highway committee that is in charge of that.
I guess, Dan, come forward, because I asked Dan the same question.
Yeah, it's different than what I understood it was going to be.
Exactly. And instead of just a building committee, a kind of a committee to overlook the whole. 'Cause the
And my
building
thought on
part
that
of
is the committee itself could already do that.
I asked the same question, and Dan has an answer.
Well, I'll try. After discussing it at our committee this past week, this project, to get the answers we need to move forward so we build the proper buildings in the right spots, we really need to have something that meets more intensively than once a month. So the idea is that a group could get together and look into all these things, which are no small task. There's a lot of things just on that list, and I assume that more will be added. And then our committee, we have several people of our committee who can't commit to a weekly meeting, and we thought that if we had another group that would do the work and report back to those committees, and that's why we chose joint people, or, the intent would be joint people from property and emergency services, that we could do the heavy lifting, so to speak, and then bring those pieces of information to those committees for decision-making. That was the rationale for wanting to do that.
Thank you.
Leo?
Yeah, the request actually came from me on the property, and I also attended EMS and got support from that committee to create the ad hoc. And the purpose, or the intent anyway, of my suggestion was to communicate with the community and allow them an opportunity to get involved. Oftentimes, when it's an appearance before a committee, there is a reluctance for the people to come forward. But this way, if we throw them into the committee, an ad hoc committee would allow not only supervisors elected to the county board, but the general public. And I think this is something that would work rather well. Answer, combine the effort with the people of the community, north, south, and middle, and as well from the various committees, be it EMS and property, and let them bring it back, and then have the oversight committees, EMS and property, evaluate their suggestions to see if there has any value before it comes back here to the county board.
Right. Does anybody got any questions? Don City.
Mr. Chairman, I think this reminds me of when you and I served on the Veterans Memorial Committee. That was an ad hoc committee to try to find a location for the memorial itself. It didn't go through the property committee. It was an ad hoc committee, and we met sometimes even twice a week. And I concur with everything's been said before.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Go to the voter board. Oh, okay, we got to make a motion to, someone want to make a motion to create an ad hoc EMS study committee?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And seconded by Don City. No, we'll go by it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed.
Thank you.
No votes. Has anybody got any oral committee reports? Susan?
I have a quick thing from Legislative Committee. The steering committee for the Door Kiwani Legislative Days 2015 has met several times, and as of yesterday, we have dates, so you may put that on your calendar. April 15 and 16. It's a Wednesday and a Thursday in Madison. And if you have any ideas of your own, or if your oversight committees have ideas, please pass them on to either myself or other members of the Legislative Committee, Kathy, Biz, John Burr, and as of today, David Enigal, or Bill Schuster, Rob Burke on the staff, and you'll hear more about this soon.
Okay. Is there anybody else have any committee report? If not, are there any questions on the committee minutes? In reviewing the vouchers, claims, and bills, does anybody have any questions? If not, the next county board meeting is January 27th at, note the time, at 10 a.m. The reason for the 10 a.m. is to allow Joel to skate across the channel. Get here on time. Motion to adjourn, I guess.
So moved.
Motion by John, seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
You gonna be here for those meetings?